We will say food is fuel, food is energy, but there will be a lot of people who will say food is an emotion. We need to ensure that when we are talking to our children, we don't tell them that, Arey, you become so thin, Arey, you're not eating enough. Future adults' mindset of food. So, how you treat food around them and your bodies around them is going to make a huge, like Louise Hay says, your body won't heal till you won't heal your life.
Online version of Tea Corner Season 2.
Welcome to the space to rewrite your food story. So, to begin with, I'll start with a powerful statement. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into weight. In fact, treat your body with some love. When we talk about healthy and fit body, a heavy word pops up in our mind, and that is weight. And that too before actually checking it on the scale. We live in a world obsessed with diet and still confused. Everybody is trying to seek some knowledge. And today, for that, from Tea Corner, I, Manisha Mehta, a certified fitness nutrition coach, have brought you with a very special and interesting session on nutrition with the perspective of food psychology. Sounds interesting? Yes, I'm talking about the same space where we have Deepali Mehta, our guest speaker of the day, who is a certified nutrition and food relationship coach, and she is the actual founder of Rewrite Your Food Story. And she'll help us to bring a shift in relationship with food, one bite, one feeling, and one story at a time. So, welcome Deepali ji to this wonderful session of the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Manisha and Tea Corner, so much for having me here. I am really excited to have this conversation with you.
Now, let's begin with our first question. What is food psychology?
Okay, before we get into that, let's break this down. What do you think is food? We will say food is fuel, food is energy, but there will be a lot of people who will say food is an emotion, food is a memory, food is a connection, food is a mood, right? And we all have a relationship with food. It is unique, it is beautiful, and at the same time, it is definitely something that has hardly anything to do with the meals that we eat. Your food story, or rather your relationship with food, is a direct manifestation or an outcome with your relationship with yourself and with your emotions, right? All of us have deep emotional feelings, such as we want, and needs actually, with, like, for example, we want to be loved, we want to be nurtured, we want to feel safe, we want to feel taken care of, we want to feel seen, we want to feel heard. And many times, when these deep emotional needs are not met in our daily current life, or rather in our relationships with ourselves at workplace, what happens is that we very subconsciously turn towards food to fulfill those voids, right? And that kind of creates our food story or our relationship with food. Now, this is where food psychology comes in. Now, what is psychology? Psychology is the science of study of mindset and behaviors. So, when you are studying food psychology, what you do is you try and understand why we eat the way we eat, which is so very important. Currently, what is happening is most diets, most nutrition plans are focusing on what we eat, why we eat, what we eat, when we eat, and how we eat, and what we should not eat. Nobody is actually focusing on why do we eat the way we do, which is the most important factor, if you ask me, right? Because these diets do not consider that we are humans at the end of the day. We are humans with emotions, right? And these emotions play a huge role in our food choices and our eating patterns. What we need today is not very strict diet plans. What we need to today do is to understand our food psychology and our relationship with food, because only then we'll understand what triggers us, what really to create these food dependencies, right? Why do we have this internal food moral police which tells us this food is right for you and this food is wrong for you? Food psychology helps us break this endless cycles of restriction, guilt, self-blame, and the constant yo-yo that we experience in our diets, right? Food psychology brings us awareness, consideration, compassion, and love, not just to yourself, but also to your relationship with food. That is food psychology for you.
Oh, so it's a very deep and informative thing that you have shared today. So, we often focus on what we eat, our likes and dislikes, whether it is healthy or not. That is the first question that arises now in everybody's mind. So, but can I ask you, Dipali, have you always had a healthy relationship with food yourself?
No, Manisha, not at all. In fact, one of the reasons why I got into the study of psychology of eating and nutrition. So, let me actually walk you through a little bit of my story, and that will help you understand and relate to why psychology of eating is so important, so powerful, and so personal. Okay. While growing up, I'm a typical Gujarati, part of a busy household, was the youngest of the four daughters. Okay. And I grew up feeling a bit disconnected from my family because of the generational gap. And because of that, I think I felt very misunderstood. I felt that nobody loved me. I wasn't important enough. And I started using food as my emotional crutch because I didn't know how to handle these emotions as a child, right? And at the same time, I think my parents didn't understand what I was going through. So for them, food was their love language, and they kept feeding me. I kept eating, and I think what happened after that was I became extremely fat, extremely obese, and I would say that I was almost 75 kgs, which was really big for me. And I went into a deep hole of, self hate. Body weight and body image struggles. I kind of had zero self worth. As I was growing up, I was constantly comparing myself to all the girls around me, and because of social media, I mean, not so much social media then, but media, I think we all thought, believed, understood that thin is beautiful, thin is sexy. Only if you're thin, you will be loved. Only if you're thin, you'll find the right partner. Only if you're thin, you'll be confident. I think thin had so many associations. And because of all the judgment that I was facing, that I kind of judge myself and all the people that judge me for being so fat, I think I hopped on to multiple diets. I started exercising endlessly. I started starving. No doubt I lost the weight. From 75 kgs, I went to 47. Okay. And everybody started saying, oh my God, you've become thin. Oh my God, you've lost all this weight. And I saw that as validation, to be very honest. And, but if you truly ask me, I was chasing a number, I was chasing to be thin. Was I happy now? I wasn't. In fact, I was more disconnected from my body than I ever was. And then came a turning point in my life where I said, you know what, it's time I start healing myself. I start addressing the emotions that I've not ever dealt with. I should start forgiving myself, start forgiving my parents, start forgiving the situations that I have gone through in my life, because a lot of those had led me to overeating, binge eating, stress eating, and towards the end, I think I had become a chronic dieter, a professional dieter who would count every calorie, who would almost feel guilty after eating every meal. And I don't think that I did any justice to my body. And then like I was mentioning to you, I started work on myself. I started journaling. I started doing meditations. I started doing a lot of affirmations. Did breath work. I started exercising to become strong and not to become thin. I started enjoying my meals. I allowed food to nourish me. I think there was a lot of work that went in to rewrite my food story.
Oh,
Yeah.
So now, जब मैं आपकी बात सुन रही हूँ, तो आज के ज़माने में बहुत सारे बच्चे हैं जो ये सिचुएशन के थ्रू जाते हैं, एंड एक्चुअली बॉडी शेमिंग वहीं से शुरू होता है, जहाँ पे बहुत पतले भी होते हैं, दो बच्चे होते हैं तो कोई एक पतला एक मोटा होता है, एंड देन they start comparing between both of them. So now let's discuss, as parents, how can we help our children to build up healthy and peaceful relationship with food?
Manisha, this is such an important question that you have asked, because I can't begin to tell you how important this is. Placing the right foundation for our children with food while they're growing up is the most strongest thing that you can do for your child, right? if we want our children to have a healthy and a peaceful relationship with food, I think firstly as parents we need to show it to them, right?
Okay.
And we need to approach food from a neutral standpoint. We need to ensure that we don't call any food good or bad. Okay, we should never use food as a love language. We should never reward, bribe, or punish our children with food. आई मीन फॉर एग्जाम्पल आज आप फर्स्ट आए हो तो आपको चॉकलेट मिलेगी. अच्छा, आज आपने होमवर्क नहीं किया है तो आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू अलाउ यू टू हैव योर फेवरेट केक विच आई हैव ऑर्डर्ड. वी एज पेरेंट्स समटाइम्स वी डू दैट क्वाइट अ बिट. We should actually teach our children to listen to their body, help them understand, to read and say that, okay, now I am full, I don't need a second helping. I am finally feeling satisfied, I don't need to overeat. We can help our children to understand that. We should separate food from emotions, And when I say that, what I mean is let's validate their feelings. So when they are not happy, when they are not okay, when something is disturbing them, let's not treat them with food. Let's help them understand their emotions. Let's, ask them, what is bothering you? What's going on with you? Because let emotions be treated in a more healthy way. Because the minute you start replacing emotions with food, that's how we will build the association. As parents, we need to have a lot of positive body talk around them. It's very, very subconscious, but a lot of ladies will look at themselves in the mirror and say, oh, am I looking fat in this dress? Oh, am I, or daddies will look at themselves in the mirror and look at their tummies and say, oh, my tummy has grown and I have got this big belly now. And how parents talk about their own bodies impacts children in a big way. That becomes their inner voice. So it's very important that we have positive body talk. Also, we need to ensure that when we are talking to our children, we don't tell them that, arey, you become so thin. Arey, you're not eating enough. Arey, how much will you eat? How many chocolates are you going to have? How many biscuits are you going to... We are constantly, questioning them so very much. We need to stop that. Most important, make meals screen-free. No phones, no tablets, no TVs. Because honestly, that begins the era of mindless eating. Yes. So please ensure that your children eat their food without any screens in front of them. So please remember, if I have to end this question, I would say that when you're feeding your children, be mindful. You are raising future adults' mindset of food. So how you treat food around them and your bodies around them is going to make a huge impact on them.
So this is so important. Most of the people eat on autopilot while scrolling the phone, as you mentioned, watching TV, or they are always in rush. So खाने पे कम ध्यान होता है. So ma'am, can you please explain us in detail? You mentioned about mindful eating.
Yes.
So how slow, conscious and mindful eating helps us to improve the digestion?
Manisha, this is such a important question that you've asked me, because eating slowly is one of the most underrated and yet the most powerful shift that anybody can bring into their lives and see how their health improves. Okay, it is biology, it is physiology, it is psychology and body respect all rolled into one. Let me break this down and I will explain this question from two perspectives. One is from a digestion perspective and one is from the psychology perspective. Okay, so when you start eating food and when food hits your mouth, what happens is your saliva starts releasing certain enzymes, right? And these enzymes start the process of digestion. So when you are eating, chewing slowly, you're giving the signal to your body to be prepared for incoming food. And when that happens, food is happily digested. But now, if you start eating really quickly and you start gulping that food down, your body does not get any signal that your food is incoming and they have to release certain enzymes for digestion. The gut needs to move, the blood needs to flow to your gut. All of these steps of digestion start getting skipped. It's like we have short-circuited our digestion process every time you are eating fast. Let me give you again a very small example and you'll understand it perfectly. Tell me, when you're baking a cake, what is the first thing you will do?
Preheat the oven?
And if you don't preheat the oven and you directly put the cake for baking, what do you think will happen?
It will not turn out to be good. Either it will be harder or it will be uncooked.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happens when you don't eat your food slowly, mindfully, or if you don't chew your food enough. You are not preheating your body or your system for the correct digestion or absorption of nutrients in your body. That is how important it is to eat slowly. Now, from a psychological point of view, two things are happening. Okay, when it takes about 20, it's scientifically proven that it takes about 20 minutes for the brain to register fullness. Okay, now if you have finished your meal in 7 minutes flat, two things are going to happen. One, your body, your brain has not received the signal that you are full or you've eaten enough, which means by the time it gets that signal, you have overeaten. Or if you're finished eating in those 7 minutes flat, in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you will be opening your fridge, looking for something, some chips, some chocolate, something, because your body has not received the satisfaction signal. Okay, so this is what happens from a psychological point of view. Another thing happens is that if you eat in a rushed fashion while you're busy watching TV, or if you are not paying attention to your plate, you're not bringing your presence to your plate, your body shifts into sympathetic nervous system, or what it's called is a stress mode. And now when that happens, your body shuts down. It's moved into a survival mode. It's a flight or a fight mode, which means that your cortisol levels go up. And when that happens, insulin spike happens. When that happens, hormone irregulation happens. When that happens, you start storing fat. And there is no proper digestion, which leads to you feeling bloated, gassy, undigested food. A lot of people get IBS because of that. You can imagine if you're eating fast all your life, and if you're asking why you have an issue with your digestion, there is the answer. Whereas if you start eating slowly, mindfully, your body moves into a parasympathetic mode. Okay, and when that happens, you are in a rest and a digest mode. Okay, and this is very, very crucial for optimal digestion. When this happens, your body is relaxed, it is absorbing all the nutrition, it is digesting your food correctly, you are enjoying it, there is pleasure, there is satisfaction, and I promise you, the food that you're eating, you're actually receiving the nourishment. So this is how important slow eating is. So it's a very, very powerful thing that one can do.
Oh, so this can even lead to lifestyle ailments, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And now, when you have explained us in details the importance of mindful eating, can you please give us some simple ways to practice it in day-to-day life so that people will start doing it?
Sure. Like we spoke about earlier, everybody has become very, very busy eaters. Indians pretty much eat their food on autopilot, right? So
Yeah.
we are preoccupied, we are distracted while eating, and we are definitely not paying attention to when we are eating. We are literally never present to our plates. It's like watching a 3-hour movie in fast forward. Now, I'm sure you will not be able to capture the movie or the emotion or the story. And that's exactly what happens when we eat fast. But eating mindfully is not very difficult. It's not rocket science. It's very, very simple, right? Before you start your food, offer a simple thank you. Thank you to your plate. Thank you to the food. Thank you to the person who cooked the food. Thank you to your body for digestion. The minute you express gratitude and say thank you, your body just calms down. Okay. Take 3 deep breaths before you start eating. Eat slowly, eat consciously, eat with all your 5 senses present. Enjoy the meal, and the amount of satisfaction and pleasure that you will get, it will completely take away overeating and mindless eating from your life. Again, very simple. Please sit and eat your meals. Don't stand and eat, because, again, that doesn't give you any satisfaction. Eat from a plate, never from a packet, right? Eat screen free. I can't tell you how important that is and how many times I can keep repeating this. And before taking a second helping, just pause and ask yourself, am I really hungry? Or is it that, I just want to feast on this food right now? Last but not the least, eat with presence, eat with grace, and eat with intention in your heart.
Yeah, so very important that you have to first learn the switch on and switch off mode before start eating, so that you are fully present there on your plate and you enjoy all the ras that are there in the plate.
Rightly
आयुर्वेदा
put.
में
Absolutely.
आयुर्वेदा में जैसे कहते हैं सारे रस को एंजॉय कीजिए, उसी तरह से हमारे बॉडी को पहले प्री हीट प्रिपेयर करना है.
Ji.
So now let's go ahead that we know that the way you think about the food impacts more than the food itself. When two people eat the same food, one feels guilty and other enjoys it fully. So actually, can our belief about food shape the way? Is it more than macro and micronutrients?
Absolutely, yes. Okay. We think that we digest our food only through our stomachs, but that's not true. It's partly true, partly true. Actually, I'm going to repeat this, okay? Can I repeat? I'll start again. Okay. We believe that our food is only digested by our stomachs, but that is partly true. The other part of the truth is that our food is digested through our thoughts, through our fears, through our beliefs, and also our judgment that we carry around food. A research was done some years back which suggested that beliefs around food and the judgment that we carry around food actually influence our bodies and how it reacts to it. Okay, potentially makes our mindset more powerful than the food in itself. This phenomena, they call it in the world of psychology, is belief effect or the placebo effect. Okay, and this demonstrates that the perception, judgment, and expectations about food can actually impact how our bodies interact with food. So let's take two people and an example around this. Okay, say both of them are eating dahi chawal at night. One person who is probably okay eating it feels that, oh my god, it's a lovely meal, it's going to be healing for me, it's going to be good for my gut, and I'm going to enjoy this meal thoroughly. Whereas another person looks at the same meal and says, carbs at night, dahi at night, oh my god, what is this going to do to me? And with all those fears and toxic feelings, when you eat that meal, what do you think happened? The second person who had those feelings and emotions around food and around that dahi chawal, actually chances are that he got heaviness, bloatedness and acidity right after the meal. Whereas the other person enjoyed his meal 100% and had a great night's sleep. Same food and totally different body response. So, the most important thing that one needs to understand is that your thoughts and your beliefs actually impact your metabolism. And it is that important, because if you have negative, toxic thoughts about your food, your gut starts experiencing anxiety. Okay, if you start judging your food, your body goes into survival stroke protection mode and starts storing fat. So these are the things how beliefs, judgments, fears can be so toxic for ourselves.
So, anyways, people always say that, and it's known that we have two brains.
Yes.
One is actual brain, and another is in our gut. So, the moment we feel whatever we feel, it is immediately captured in our gut, and the digestion is affected. So, now to go ahead, we all know many things from social media. It's the popular educator nowadays.
Yes.
And many things about diet, nutrition, the fad diets, the modern and the trendy diets. So, but I have myself studied nutrition, I know that this kind of diet affects the health and also impacts the mental health.
Yes.
So, let's discuss this important aspect.
There are many kinds of diets out there, right? There are low carb diets, there are keto diets, there are intermittent fasting. There are various kinds of diets that have been designed by many nutritionists out there, and there is definitely some science to it, and they have become very popular. But what I personally think is that it's no one diet is like a one size that fits all. It's very important to understand that all the diets that have been designed and planned in the modern day have become too rigid. Okay, they actually, and when there are so many rules, there are so many restrictions around food, what happens is it starts creating a havoc in your system, with your body, with your hormones, with your digestion process, and most importantly with your mental health. So let me explain how. So when these diet plans that are given to you, they are so rigid, they're so full of rules, there's so many restrictions. What really happens is you start saying that, oh, I can only eat within this window. Oh, I can only eat this particular fruit. People start getting, like, people who are on keto diets get scared of eating a banana. There are certain people who are on IF diets are so particular that even if they wake up feeling hungry, they will still skip that breakfast. So what happens is your body is in a constant fight mode. It's constantly stressed. It completely messes with your serotonin levels. So what happens is that your mood dips, there is irritability, you start experiencing sleep issues, and when all of that happens, sometimes many people start experiencing depression as well. I am not saying that these diets are not right or not working, but it's very important to understand that every person has a very unique food story. Every person needs to kind of be understood from their history, from their food history, from their family history. What kind of a mental disposition do they have? Can they take on such rigid diets? So only when you understand all of this is when you can design and define a customized personal strategy for a particular person, right? And hence I believe that keto or intermittent fasting are very rigid, are very restrictive, and when you do this, you end up binge eating for sure. And you actually move into extreme dieting, right? So hence it's very important to believe and understand that no food is good or bad. There shouldn't be too many restrictions around your food, because that's how you create judgments, and that's how you create all these moral ideas around food. Because if you break them, you say, I am not good enough, I have failed, I am somebody who couldn't keep up to my diet. I know, that's why I say that your diets should be rooted in balance, in compassion, and in kindness and flexibility.
Yeah, so that one can follow it properly. And usually, what happens is then when we all want discipline for health, so you are perfect the whole week when you go on such diets. And once if you fail, sometimes during the weekends, and what there is a trap where you go in all or nothing state of mind.
Yes.
So, how does one break that?
So what is all or nothing mindset? Visually put, it's like a seesaw. Imagine when you are all in, you are at a high, and when you are all out, you're down. Yeah, it's extremes. It's black and white thinking. There is no gray. There is no room for emotion. There is no room to understand that we are humans, and sometimes emotions will drive us to make certain decisions around food, because sometimes, sure, we eat food to nourish our bodies, and sometimes we eat food to nourish our souls. Sometimes that probably having that ice cream once in a while when you've had a very tough day, or because you want to remember your childhood and you want to put that little dollop of ghee on your khichdi, is okay. That doesn't mean that you have kind of moved away from the entire plan. There should be space for human emotion. And hence I always tell all my clients that, what, ditch the labels. Stop making food a subject of moral science. Just because you followed a diet does not make you a good person, does not make you somebody, or rather, when you have not fulfilled a diet, does not make you a bad person, does not make you a failure. It's okay. There is progress is more important than perfection. Consistency is more important than being perfect every single day. Always set small achievable goals. A lot of time, a few clients of mine come to me and set such big goals. I want to lose so much weight in 1 month, 2 months. But when you set such huge goals, you're setting yourself up for failure, because it's not practically possible to eat in a particular way every single day. So I would say set small goals, set weekly goals, enjoy them, celebrate them, so that you're motivated to go to the next level. Whereas in all and nothing mindset, what really happens is that if you fall off the bandwagon even for a day, you give up everything. And that is what is extreme mindset. And I don't recommend anybody to follow a diet that leads you to an extreme mindset. There should be balance. There should be moderation. There should be room to enjoy food, and there should be room to seek pleasure.
So my soul food is khichdi and ghee, so I can enjoy that.
Absolutely.
हम सबकी
In
लाइफ
moderation, if I may say so.
यस हम सबकी लाइफ में कल्चरल ट्रेडिशन का बहुत ही गहरा इम्पैक्ट है
100%.
रिश्ता है एंड एक्चुअली ऑब्वियसली दैट रिफ्लेक्ट्स इन आवर फूड जब फेस्टिवल्स आते हैं कुछ भी होता है तो खाने से ही हम सेलिब्रेट करते हैं सो नाउ लेट अस नो हाउ इट इन्फ्लुएंसेस फूड चॉइसेस एंड डाइट पैटर्न्स
100%. Culture is beautiful, right? All of us have, whether you're a Gujarati, you're a South Indian, whether you're a Punjabi, whether you're Sindhi, we all have our own independent, unique cultures which impact our food story. You know, culture is a way of doing things. Culture is a ritual. Culture is a tradition. Culture is sometimes unique to a household, and sometimes unique to your community, and sometimes unique to your state. And culture is literally something that gives us our first food script, tells us what is good for us, what is not good for us, so on and so forth, and why we eat certain foods during festivals, why we eat certain foods, what is the importance, why certain foods are treated as prasad, why certain foods are not to be eaten, for example, root vegetables in the Jain community, and so on and so forth. But having said that, there are yet certain things, like for example, in a Gujarati household, eating jalebi gathia for breakfast, eating papaya with your lunch is considered very common. And it's like, you know, people will say, and many times I have asked my friends, my family, all of that why do we eat this way? The constant answer is, हमारे यहाँ तो बस ऐसा ही होता है. Why has nobody ever paused and asked that, you know what, does this still work today? Maybe it did with our ancestors, maybe it did with our grandparents, but does it still work today with my very sedentary lifestyle, with my hormones raging, with my gut having issues, with probably my eating or my lifestyle has led me to have a lot of inflammation within me. So why is it okay to have certain fried food every single day? Let's question this. I am not saying culture is bad. I'm saying culture is beautiful. But there are certain rules and regulations which we need to ditch now. Maybe we need to let it go because they don't work for us anymore. Maybe we know now better that certain things don't work. But yes, culture is still connection. So doing a puja, eating a prasad, believing it's sacred, we should still do it. Why not? But eating a papaya along with your lunch, maybe we should question. Right? That's what I mean. Again, bring in balance. See what works for you and see what doesn't work for you.
या सो अक्सर आम की सीज़न में लोग आम रस पूरी खाते हैं एवरीथिंग हैज़ टू बी क्वेश्चन राइट सो what changes do people start noticing in other aspects of their life when they begin to heal their relationship with food?
This is a very interesting question, and like I always say, your food story is unique to you, and your food story or your food challenges always are messengers. You know, they are bringing you messages about either something to do with your health or some deeper emotion that you've not addressed or some part of your life that needs to be healed. Okay, because how we behave with food, our eating patterns are a direct reflection to all of this. To talk about this point, actually a story comes to my mind, an example of a client of mine, and I would love to tell you this story because it'll just become so easy for us to understand that how, if you heal your relationship with food, how it can impact other areas of your life. I had a client who came to me, and her larger issue was that when I'm eating at home, everything is fine. But the minute I go to a restaurant or the minute I have a social dinner at work or with family or anything that I do on weekends which is out of the ordinary from the home environment, everything goes wrong. I eat as if I have never seen food. I eat food and I'm out of control in that particular way. Again, there is no balance. So I said, okay, no problem. We started discussing, we started talking, I started counseling her. A lot of questions, a lot of answers, and something stuck with me, a statement that she made that, every time I go out to a restaurant, I never place an order. So I said, okay, why don't you place an order if you're going to eat something at the restaurant? Wouldn't you want to eat what you want to eat? And she was like, no, I always let the other person order, either it's my friend or a family member or a colleague or whatever that is. And I said again, why? We dig deeper, deeper, deeper to understand a very beautiful insight about her psychology, which is that she was very scared of speaking up. She was very scared of telling the person that she was with that what she wanted to eat, because she was like, you know what, if I say something and if she wants to eat something else, there's going to be a conflict. I'd rather eat whatever she orders. You know, she was almost like a people pleaser. You know, she was too scared of conflict, too scared of losing people, too scared of this is a typical trait of a people pleaser. And then and then she kind of said that, you know what, this is very true, this happens in other areas of life too. I hardly have the courage to open my mouth in front of my boss. I hardly say anything at home. I am always going by what other people want. I never open my mouth. So we started working on her relationship with food and on her people pleasing traits. And after a few months, to be honest, she had such a powerful shift in her life, where not only she started being more clear, started setting boundaries, started speaking up courageously for herself. Her relationship with herself improved. It improved with food. It improved with people around her. People started respecting her a lot more than she ever thought she would get from them. So what a beautiful shift, right? I mean, it was, the entry point was food, but see where it landed.
Yeah, so the few patterns that we carry on, that shows up in our relationship with food as well. So here an important aspect opens is about the emotional part of it. Can emotions affect certain chronic illness?
Yes, they do. And, you know, if I have to dig deeper here and tell you a lot more, is conditions like PCOS, IBS, thyroid disorders, even certain autoimmune disorders are deeply rooted in certain emotional imbalances or the triggers that we have, that lead us to eat in a particular way. Because chronic stress, suppression of emotions, anxiety, they all impact our hormones, our gut health, and also our immunity, right? A lot of these symptoms are direct reflections of deeper issues into our life. So, for example, your gut will never be able to digest food because you are not digesting life. Your intestines will not let go of the toxic waste if you don't let go of control. Your metabolism will not speed up if you don't slow down, right? So our body is always showcasing these physical symptoms for us to understand, to pinpoint us, to direct us to a certain issue that we have in our body. It wants us to spend some time, understand, and heal these parts.
Oh, so Dipali, to let you know,
In fact, I want to add a line, and that will be beautiful. Maybe they'll edit and add it. I'm going to repeat. Our body is showcasing these physical symptoms, so we understand what needs to change. And like Louise Hay says, your body won't heal till you won't heal your life.
Yeah, so basically I have read this book. I was going to tell you that I have read this book more than 10 times, and after that I have made an habit, because your story that you mentioned you have faced in childhood, I have faced that in my adulthood. I had gone through very bad health of and that was the worst part in my life, where I had to heal many of the emotions and many of the other issues. So the outcome was good health, and that led me to go to the college and study that nutrition part,
Nice.
because I wanted to know it more in details.
I'm sure
And-
now you understand why it is so powerful and why it
Yeah,
is so personal for people
I
like
can
us.
even talk and I can walk the talk during this session.
Beautiful.
And this, as Louis Hay has always suggested, that whenever there is some ailment in your body, you have to first address the other issues that are always related to
Absolutely.
it. So when I have a headache, I sit and think, क्या हुआ था ऐसे कि जिससे मुझे रोज सर दर्द होता है. So that way, it is very powerful that you said, and actually almost everybody should read that book.
I agree, totally.
या सो अक्सर ऐसा होता है कि हम बहुत सारी चीज़ें खुद जानते हैं. पीपल गो थ्रू मैनी सच एलिमेंट्स जहाँ पे कुछ चीज़ें खाना रिस्ट्रिक्टेड होता है. जैसे शुगर होता है तो शुगर नहीं खाना होता है, इनफैक्ट उसका रीज़न शुगर नहीं है, बट देन दे डोंट हैव टू ईट इट in spite of doctor saying them and dietitian warning them that you should obey the rules, or you have to be in discipline, you cannot eat this, but people are not able to actually maintain that discipline in life. So what is really stopping people to take charge of their life?
Yeah. Manisha, if I have to sum up the reason in one word, I'll say ownership. But if I have to explain this, let me go into the depth of this a little bit. You know, a lot of us are fighting ourselves continuously. We are fighting ourselves, we are fighting our emotions, we are fighting our lifestyle, we are fighting our situations, we are fighting our financial conditions, we are fighting, our egos. There's constant fight that's going on in our life. We are fighting, and since we are talking about food and weight, we are also fighting our bodies, we are fighting our weights, we are fighting the number on the scale. We are never ever happy with ourselves. We are never accepting who we are. We are never accepting where we are in our lives, the people in our lives, the situations in our lives, right? We have no gratitude, we have no ownership, we take it for granted. And so much so that when you take things for granted, we take no responsibility of it. Now, if you're able to connect it back, what will happen is when you don't take ownership of yourself, this body doesn't belong to you. And if the body doesn't belong to you, why are you going to take a responsibility to make any changes? Right? Why would I want to do any work? Why should I put myself to trouble, wake up and go for a walk? Why should I eat certain healthy food? Why should I do all of that? You behave like this body doesn't belong to you. Now, if you change that at the start, at the core, if this body starts, it's like when you are giving your negative signals, if you're constantly self-hating, if you're constantly hating your body, the body is not going to respond to all the work that you do. You might follow a diet for a few days, but you will fall back to your eating patterns. Because A, you don't love your body, there is no ownership, which means you're not going to rewrite your food story, which means you're not going to truly put in the effort. So, willpower, consistency, discipline, yes, all very important. But before that, own up to yourself, own up to your life, own up to your body. Be okay. Accept your body the way it is today. Love it. And when you love the body at this point, the way it is, it'll become far more easier to make all the change, to take charge of your life, to take charge of your health, because now this body is yours.
So now I like to actually list all the takeaways the most I can. Dipali, today we had a really healthy discussion on different perspective of nutrition, and there are so many takeaways that one can have from them. Honestly, building a healthy relationship with food, not following the trendy diets, actually having an happy-go-lucky nature, loving ourselves, giving priority to ourselves, enjoy everything but in a disciplined manner, listen to the body first and then follow traditional patterns, cultivate mindfulness while eating, and eating slowly is very important. And so now when we have heard Dipali speak this, I am sure that we will actually take a pause before we reach out for the food, that are we eating out of the hunger or it is out of the emotion. Relationship with food is not only about the willpower, it's also about deeper understanding of our own selves. Thank you, Dipali, for being part of the podcast and opening up a new insight and motivating all of us to rewrite our own food stories.
Thank you. Thank you, Manisha, for having me.
Thank you so much. You were here invited in the Deep Corners podcast, and it's token of love from whole committee.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Come one, come all. Caring and sharing is a secret of life. Care for others by sharing this Tea Corner podcast.
Tea Corner!